Call to order the regular common council meeting, Monday, January 20th, 2020, 7 p.m. Roll call.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Olson, Radke,
Yes.
Burdick.
Yes. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
appropriate meeting notice.
Meeting was noticed on Friday, January 17th. Agendas were posted at the post office, library, and city hall.
Council acceptance of agenda.
Motion to accept?
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Personal appearances for non-agenda items. Anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on anything that's not on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to the minutes from the January 6th meeting.
Motion to approve January 6, 2020 council meeting minutes?
I'll second.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Finance Committee.
Finance met this evening at 6:40. And I will make a motion to approve bills and payroll in the amount of $2,054,875.32.
The second.
Any discussion on the bills? Other than the Christmas bills must have came in? Obviously, the first half of the taxes
Yes.
for the other entities. Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa, Olson,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick.
Yes. Motion passes.
Okay, there were no approvals. Approval of licenses. And I will make a motion to to reject the bid for disposal of logs and adopt the policy as stated in the staff report, with a condition upon the city obtaining any permits needed.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. I recently had a tree cut down on my terrace, and one of the men from the Department of Public Works asked me when the policy was changed that they were no longer able to utilize some of that wood that they cut down from the trees. Apparently, they had been able to take it and cut it for firewood at their homes. Is there a new regulation now, or new rule that
I was
they can't?
unaware of that. So it's it's the public's property. So we need to make sure that we are giving the public an opportunity and getting the most out of it that we can.
Well, apparently, they're not able to do that anymore, but in the past they were, and he was wondering why it had been changed, and I wasn't aware that there was a change.
This policy would allow them to. If they wish to select a log, they could buy it, or the logs are available for anyone to take now.
And then if they don't go away, there's the opportunity for anyone to take it by the loads, even out of town, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick.
Yes. Motion passes.
Motion to approve contract with Clark Companies for 2020 landscape services in the amount of $11,500.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And that's it for finance?
Thank you. Anything from utilities?
No, we met last Monday. There's nothing to bring forward.
Okay, and Plan Commission, we met earlier tonight. There's a couple things there. If anybody from the Plan Commission wants to take them up.
I'll make a motion to approve the plat of survey of 218 York Road.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next thing on the agenda was, I'd like to make a motion to approve extraterritorial land division for Pearl of Town Albion, Section 37, and to combine 2 lots on East Hillside Road, number 10355.
Second.
Did I hear 37?
Yeah,
That's
Did I?
36.
Okay.
you did. Yeah.
36?
36.
36? I'll second 36.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask the Alderman persons if they could speak a little louder into the microphone?
Okay.
Could you bring, if you
Drag
bring your
a
mics
little
down?
closer, maybe? Thanks. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Motion passes.
Then we had another one, basically the same thing. I'd like to make a recommendation for approval extraterritorial land division for Pearl, Town of Albion, Section 36, to combine 2 lots in East Hillside Road and Hillwood Drive, number 10354.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, it's Highwood Drive. I think I heard Hillwood.
Sorry.
I heard it.
Sorry.
Anyone else?
I'll still second Highwood.
Okay. Roll call.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Motion passes. That was about all we had at planning, I believe. Thank you. Next item is consider lifting hiring freeze for filling vacant police patrol position.
I'd like to make a motion to lift the hiring freeze to fill a vacant police patrol position.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Olson,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Radke, Burdick,
Yes.
Is it too late to make a little comment on that?
Yes.
Okay. We'll bring it up under all the person reports. That's where I had it in the last place anyhow. Motion passes. Consider addendum to purchase agreement for 407 North Main Street to allow reduction in parcel size.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is the corner of 407 part of the wetland, or is it due to be part that's raised?
It is not part of the wetland, and it is not the part that will be raised.
Okay.
It is not part of the development in any scheme I've seen because of its location on the other side of the creek and the wetland.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Davis,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Radke,
Yes.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Motion passes. Next item is to consider taking action on the option to shorten the lease term in the Veterans Building lease agreement.
I'll make a motion that we act upon our option to shorten the lease term for the Veterans Building lease agreement.
I'll second.
Discussion.
What is the impediment to sale if there's a tenant with a 36-month lease?
If the lease is sub-market rate, then it would be not attractive potentially, the longer that lease is.
Anyone else? Hearing no discussion, no further discussion, roll call. Oh,
Will any of the 61,200 be expended to improve prior to sale? Should the building be occupied or not? Would any of the slated or staff estimates for 61,000 total of 3 items, maybe 4 items. Would any of those be undertaken or not?
It would depend a lot on, the roof is probably the one that has the shortest timeline, and we have not budgeted anything for this year, as you know, for repairing that roof. So if we're going to own it for a longer period, then I imagine that we would be investigating to determine how long that roof can wait.
Alder Davis made a suggestion about affording Children's Center an additional 30 days, and I'm just wondering what the status of that discussion ended up to be from last meeting.
There's been no discussion since the last meeting that I'm aware of about that issue.
Anything else?
You're talking about the February 1st, moving it to March 1st?
Right.
Okay, yeah. No, that was, I know somebody brought it up at the last one, but that was
Yeah.
as far as it went.
That was brought up, and
This move we're doing, basically, is we're discussing, it doesn't mean we're doing, I mean, we're giving notice, but it doesn't mean if anything falls through, then we can revert to the old contract, correct?
Right.
Or we would?
If the question is, does this require a sale? No, it does not.
Right.
It allows it allows us to sell the building, which is subject to a lease, in a shorter time frame than it would without the notice. Without the notice, we'd hold on to it. We could sell it. We can sell it today. But it's going to have a much longer leasehold on it, and this allows us to shorten up by a year.
This goes through July of 2021.
That's correct.
The other one would be 2022.
Correct.
Okay.
just as we accepted as a body the recommendation of the committee to the council to enact a sale, there was nothing binding about that. All it did was accept the recommendation. What particular action would put the sale in motion? What is the first thing that would indicate that the building is now on the market?
This body would have to establish a means of sale, presumably a price, whether you're going to sell it on the open market, whether you're going to sell it by a request for proposals, a variety of issues that have yet to be discussed. So it will not be sold without further action of this body.
The question that Elder Olson asked in the last meeting was regarding the current tenant right of first refusal, and it's not in the lease. And does that mean it can't be?
No, we could modify the lease if the other party wanted to. Traditionally, rights of first refusal are bargained for at the outset, but there's nothing that would prohibit it being added now. Traditionally, you buy that right. You agree on the price, perhaps the time frame. Sometimes it's just the right to meet whatever offer has been made. Depends. You can have a variety of different rights of first refusal.
Would a compromise between the hurried pace and a more accommodating pace be to at least modify the lease to allow that?
I'm afraid I don't understand the question.
The compromise being instead of February 1st, March 1st, to give the tenant sufficient time to weigh the possibility of becoming the buyer.
I don't know. From a legal standpoint, I don't know how to answer that question. You could conceively enter into discussions to have a right of first refusal at any point in time. There's nothing that prohibits this council from engaging in such discussions at any point in time.
I just thought that if that were made a provision in the lease, that the date would be immaterial. We could still stick to the schedule the city intends.
So I guess maybe I'm getting confused because it sounds as though When we talk about right of first refusal, that's more on the selling of the building, and we're discussing the length of the lease, correct?
Well, it's just the opportunity for the current tenant to enter into that transaction, should it be favorable to both sides.
And I totally agree, but shouldn't that be part of when we discuss
The next agenda.
the process to sell, or not?
I think I understand.
I don't want to leap ahead of
Yeah.
that, but I just want to
Okay.
make sure that we don't miss an opportunity to modify the lease.
As I said, the only thing that's on the table right now for discussion and action is whether or not we shorten the lease. And of course, just by voting to give the notice doesn't mean that you don't carry the lease all the way through to the end of the lease.
Correct.
It just allows you the option of...
I'm understanding that, just wanting to not miss the opportunity and not knowing how to proceed or even what point that question should be asked. I just thought it would be better to get clarity as soon as possible.
Certainly, and there's nothing that is on the table right now would prohibit
Okay.
you taking that action at some point in time.
Thanks.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Burdick,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
Isa,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Olson,
No.
Radke,
No.
Motion passes 4-2. Next item is to discuss and consider process to sell Veterans Memorial Building.
Do we need to have a motion on the floor to discuss
No,
this
let's
since
have-
it's in there like
I think
that?
we can have a little background, can't we, first before, or not? As to maybe what our options are?
Well, a little bit. Again, as I said to Alder Esau, you have a variety of mechanisms to consider. You can consider them tonight. You can consider them at any point in time now that you've shortened the lease period. You can engage in a process where you have a realtor market the property. You can do that now, you can do that next month, you can do that next year. It is really entirely up to you as the property owner as to when you market the property and whether or not you do so with the aid of a realtor, whether you do so simply by putting it out for proposals. I would suggest that it is appropriate to determine what a amount that you would consider appropriate as a bottom line at least, and ideally a reasonable fair market value that you think is what the property should bring, and then decide how best to get to that number is probably what the discussion should be.
Should bids be entertained prior to arriving at a fixed figure, or is that something that...
I wouldn't. I would want to know what the likely best value is for this property, and a lot of things are going to affect it. The state of repair, the length of the lease that you have on with the tenant, whether or not it's a fair market value, rather a market rate lease. If it's below market, that's going to affect what a developer presumably would want to bid for it.
If we listed with the realtor would assist in developing all that information. If you go to a sealed bid and you're on your own, then I think then that's a closed session conversation regarding establishing those numbers. Yeah. But a realtor would be someone who would guide you in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you all know, I'm sure, if you get, for example, if you would list it for sale for $300,000 and you get no bites, you don't have to sell it. You don't have to take the only offer. You could decide, well, maybe it's better to be held. Maybe we'll develop a use for it. Those are all things before you. But yes, I think having a realtor, having someone with some expertise in determining value and marketing the property is probably a good first start.
I know my letter stated that I would have preferred sealed bids, but after some discussion, I think we can make it work best for the council here and any potential buyers if we put it on the market with a realtor and let them negotiate with any potential buyers where we don't have quite the room to work with if we put it out for bid, sealed bids.
Okay. Well, hearing that, I would like to make a motion to start the process to sell the Veterans Memorial Building via a realtor, through a realtor, and put request for proposal out to realtors to sell the building.
There's a second? Okay, further
Now we can have
discussion?
further
Yeah.
discussion.
So if we do that, they're not immediately going to put it out on the market, are they? Are they going to come and give us some of that information first, or?
What I understood the motion to be is to engage in a request for proposals from realtors to engage a realtor. And so, no, it's not going to be
Okay.
put up for sale right now. The first step is to find the person that's going to assist us.
Okay.
I think those were my exact words. You said it so eloquently, Bill.
So, not wanting to preclude the possibility that the current tenant could be the buyer, I would not be opposed to the assessing and arriving at a fixed figure. And that could change based on the real estimates for repair, not just the staff estimates.
You want, say that again, you want us to arrive at a number?
It may come after.
Oh, not tonight?
No.
Because we need to work with the realtor.
Exactly, and
Okay.
so that may reveal how much
Yep.
the sale price will be affected by the needed work.
Right.
I'm assuredly will be a component.
Okay,
With any buyer, I think
Right,
that would
they're
be
going to do
a
their own
Absolutely.
analysis.
too.
with any buyer.
Right.
Have we had anybody other than the school that's currently renting ask about it and want to talk about purchasing?
So Ms. Engler is not the school.
The school that's renting it.
Right.
No.
It's
Her
only
daycare,
the-
she has a daycare.
Sorry.
Which is
Daycare
different than the
schools to me.
school. Yeah,
It's a
that's,
school.
I guess when I
In
hear
my brain,
school, I
sorry.
hear the school.
4K.
Yeah.
My
Community.
bad, my bad. But besides the renter, has there been any other person or company?
There has been some.
And would it involve a redevelopment, rezoning at all?
I don't know.
Has the school district expressed an interest?
I think that's up to the school district to say, that really that conversation. They have a board like you do, so I don't want to speak on behalf of, as far as I know, they haven't taken a vote on anything. That's all I can really tell you. You can ask if anyone wants to share that information from the school, but I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of any board.
I think the question came up at one of the two previous meetings, and that was if the adjacent property, being the school district, if they were interested, there would not be any need for rezoning, and it's possibly the best possible outcome that the business would continue at the same address. So I wouldn't want to stand in the way of a potential sale if that were the case.
In the past, there's been several incidences when the city has sold land to a developer or a company, and I think just a handful of years ago, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, just down the road here on Fulton Street, the city purchased a building and sold it to the community outreach for $1. Is there any reason why we couldn't consider doing something like that to the Edgerton Children's Center?
I think that mainly is because Edgerton Outreach is a nonprofit organization.
Yes, yes. The short answer is it would be very unusual to give public property to a private entity unless it's part of a TIF development or something like that that's going to develop a tax base. It's normal to give it to a town, a district, what have you, but it would be unusual. You can look into it and flesh that out, but you would have to establish a public purpose for doing that. And what is the public purpose in giving it to a private entity? We'd have to overcome that hurdle.
And so then, the other properties that have been sold, like in the business districts, are those under TIF?
Developer agreements.
Yeah, there are developer agreements that are going to increase the tax base, which is the public purpose. So what is the public purpose? You'd have to meet that threshold. Not saying it can't be done, but you'd have to, you're not going to want to give away a parcel of land for $1 unless you're going to have a reasonable expectation that this is raising your tax base.
Well, it would.
Should the buyer...
Not taxable now, so yes, by de facto it would.
I mean, zero to increase.
Something.
Increase.
Should the buyer eventually turn out to be a combination of a commercial tenant and, well, not tenant anymore, but commercial owner and a nonprofit, it would be a public-private partnership, would that qualify for the much reduced price?
Those are all factors that we would consider and potentially could. But it's all speculation now without having numbers.
I noticed that on the work of the committee, it was unassailable. There was nothing faulty about the work of the committee, just that there was one question about the 5 options. There was not a 6th option that would have 2 tenants, one the commercial enterprise and a nonprofit.
It's the same thing, though. It's just a tenant. The policy for the city is, are we going to lease to someone, or are we going to sell, or are we going to put a public purpose in the building?
And that keeps it crisp and clear, but I'm saying, should the eventual buyer turn out to be a public-private partnership, would that then qualify for some greatly reduced sale price?
That's the council's decision. This is a public building. It's a taxpayer's property, so I think that's your charge as a council person, is to ensure that you're taking care of the interests of the taxpayer, not an individual business. So that will all be your decision. If someone comes forward with a proposal that's really great, just like the proposals that you have many times to consider, there are things other than just dollars when you look at those. If they're going to create a huge tax base, or if they're going to create a bunch of jobs, there's all kinds of things you have to consider. So if someone proposes something, you will get to consider it.
And that's what I'm putting way up on the list as another best possible outcome.
And that's an opinion, so that will depend upon what everyone here at the table decides.
Sure.
And I stated to the reporter this weekend that it would be best if the Children's Center was able to buy it and put it on the tax rolls, in my opinion, for the taxpayers. It becomes a taxable building, and all the continued costs are then onto the new owner.
Understood.
Anyone else? Could we hear the motion back, please?
I was just going to ask for a clarification.
Okay.
So I believe the motion was to start the process by requesting proposals from realtors for listing the Veteran Memorial Building?
Correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Second on that.
Burdick.
If there's no further discussion, roll call.
Davis?
Yes.
Burdick?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
Davis, or Esau?
Yes.
Olson?
No.
Radke?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1. Thank you, everybody, for taking interest in that. And next item is Mayor, Alderpersons, and staff reports. We have trivia this weekend for the Chamber and Outreach Combination Fundraiser. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Doug Burek for his time he spent here in town, and congratulate him on his appointment as police chief up in Mount Horeb. And as the chief stated to me tonight, every one of the finalists that were here when he got hired have all been hired for police chief jobs. So I think our process and our committee, police commission did a damn good job of picking people out. So other than that, I don't have anything.
One thing real quick, so the kudos to the crossing guards this week, and we have our own, so Candy, congratulations, kudos to Crossing Guard Week to you, and thanks for what you do.
Anyone that feels like reading the next one?
Do we need a closed session? Okay. I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Discuss and consider sale negotiations of Veterans Memorial Building, and discuss and consider purchase of fill for 407 North Main Street.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Davis?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Radke?
Yes.
Burdick?
Yes.
Motion passes.